Hi, welcome back to the Rich Fritzky Show. Thanks, as ever, for taking the time out to have a listen. Over the past week, like you, I'm certain, have heard quite a number of profound appeals regarding arms, weapons, and America. Many of these appeals were angry. All were emotional, at times both angry and emotional, all reasonable, painful, moving, from coaches, senators, parents, and we the people. Last week, Americans everywhere, painfully and emotionally, dealt with the appalling tragedy in Uvalde. But death by guns in our country has grown so ordinary that we didn't hear a peep yesterday about the 4 dead in a med building south of Tulsa. I looked to see, but I didn't find anything. I rather came across a couple of disturbing articles about the United States Supreme Court's readiness to strike down gun restrictions and carry restrictions in New York. New York bans assault weapons. Can you just imagine? Instead of going forward, that's where our Supreme Court intends to move our nation. And as to the Second Amendment, it drives me crazy. For I have long believed the Second Amendment to be null and void, as have many once Supreme Court justices of the United States, as have many Chief Justices of the United States Supreme Court. And yet there it is, untouched. It's a simple understanding of the English tongue, the English language, and how it works. And in the Second Amendment, there's an independent clause and a dependent clause. The independent clause is that, hey, a local militia is a necessity. And back then, when this was drafted, yes, it was. There were no paid police departments anywhere. No paid enforcement of laws. There were only volunteers. And so they said those volunteers need to have access to weapons. So because they needed the local militia, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be abridged. Well, didn't that change? Now you can't go anywhere where you aren't under the province of some authority. In the deepest recesses of America, you'll find some sheriff running around with his deputies. It is not our sacred Second Amendment. It is something that should no longer exist. And yet it has been given a power that it was never, ever, ever intended to be. In 1972, 50 years ago to be exact, I wrote my senior thesis at Seton Hall University about guns, about gun prohibitions. There was actually a piece of legislation in Congress at the time, submitted by Senator Ted Kennedy of Massachusetts, that would restrict handguns. Only handguns were at issue. We don't even talk about that anymore, think about that anymore, because this issue has grown so big. And 10 years ago, I actually thought that the Republicans would finally have to accept the humane realities, the moral imperatives, if you will, of grappling with our weapons-crazed nation, given the emotionally pulverizing madness of the Christmas slaughter in Newtown. For how could anyone not be blown away by the sudden massacre of so many beautiful first-grade children and brave teachers? How, in the name of all that is sacred and holy, in the name of the broken and buried innocents, would they not then move on common sense legislation that we, the people, overwhelmingly supported? But in no time at all, they proved to us that they were devoid of hearts and souls. They had made their deal with the devil, and they went right on walking hand in hand in an unholy conspiracy with the NRA and the gun lobby, despite near 90% of all Americans supporting comprehensive background checks. Not that there are any kudos, by the way, for the Democrats, who well could have demonstrated courage and leadership by ditching the filibuster and doing right, by moving the long-standing, untouched by the Senate, House background checks bill. And who's kidding who? It's ever so much more than mere background checks. It's pushing back on the sale and legality of AR-15s and all assault weapons. It's pushing back on the madness of open carry. For a few days, we are numbed by the slaughters of the precious children of Uvalde, as we were with Parkland, Oxford, Santa Fe, Newtown, Columbine, and so too the notorious bloodbaths in supermarkets in Buffalo and Boulder, in a rail yard in San Jose, at a birthday party, of all things, in Colorado Springs, a convenience store in Springfield, Missouri, a synagogue in Pittsburgh, churches in Texas and South Carolina, in a Walmart in El Paso, a FedEx warehouse in Indianapolis, a Waffle House in Nashville, massage parlors near Atlanta, a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, and a music festival in Las Vegas. And no one could possibly forget that gay nightclub in Orlando when so very many were slaughtered. But, we yell, we mourn, we are saddened, but then, as ever, it's always business as usual. I was taken aback last week, particularly by the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. And I quote, he said this when he was being asked about, laws that might help to preclude this madness. This is what he said. He said, we can't stop bad people from doing bad things. They're going to violate murder laws. They're not going to follow gun laws. I've never understood that argument. Good God. The keeper of a state's laws, who said publicly that he doesn't believe law matters. Think about that. Ratchet that kind of thinking out. What a dangerous point of view and perspective that is. And yet I think it's part and parcel of where the Republican mindset is on this issue. Sadly, Fox News and others, their response the day after Uvalde, was we need to militarize our schools. Wow, really? That's where they want to go. As if more guns are the answer, instead of an apple for the teacher, an assault weapon. The answer can never ever be more guns. That will only lead to more accidents, more stupidity, more deaths, more fear. The New York Times reports that on average in the United States, on any given day, more than 35 to 50 people are murdered. No other developed country in the world has a weapons homicide rate anywhere near as high. Only Greenland pretends to compete with us, but they have 1 death for every one of our 2. A good number of developed countries fall between, what would be 1 for every one of our 8 deaths, and some 1 for every one of our 4 deaths. And yet, still, a good number of other countries border on virtually 0 deaths by weapons. Nada. 0. This not quite, but extremely close class includes England, Ireland, Japan, Luxembourg, Norway, Switzerland, Denmark, Singapore, and others. There are no slaughters of the innocents there, no slaughters of the precious there. None. So why not us? Seriously, why not us? In America, the Wild West lives on. We salute the flag, take our hats off, sing the national anthem. We the people pray in our churches and believe. We long trumpeted that ours was a nation that had ascended to be of good, that we were the big, better, best of the world, only to find of late that there is no solid ground or constancy. After years of turmoil and selfishness and lies and corruptions, we have awoken onto a malaise of doubt in our capacity to advance, doubt in the honesty, mindset, and motives of our fellow Americans, doubt in leaders who don't lead, in representatives who neither serve nor act, doubt in our refusal to be bold anymore, to ever be fully honest or to take a damn risk, or to simply give a damn and fall on the sword in the name of any truth. Oh, we are so very hungry for the risk takers and the bold today. Lies in the public forum have now been justified as fakes, and there's far too much I, me, mine, and we remain shaken at the core. And yet we know there must be faith, there must be hope. Why not? Inside, we refuse to believe that we have to accept the silence and the bullshit that we get from our leaders. Simply put, we, all of us, must turn out national legislators who put the desire of an NRA before the lives of our children, our neighbors, you. We are killing our children. When Mag and I were young, when our children were very young, back in another lifetime, we once all went to this show that was put on by this group in our area called Safety Kids. And, back then there was no fear of children being shot in school. There was fear of children being taken because there had been a good bit of that. And so this was one of those Safety Kids songs that they sung that night that has ridiculously stayed in my head. And this is how part of it went. Sometimes you just gotta yell and scream. Sometimes it's the only thing to do. Louder than a fire truck, you just gotta open up and get the crowd's attention paid to you. Let's just change the last line. Let's get Washington's attention paid to you. To all of us. Join Sandy Hook Promise. Join the relentless advocates of Parkland. Run with the passion you all had last week. Keep that passion. Fully invest. Refuse to forget or to put it on the side. Now. We need to pass thorough background checks, comprehensive background checks. We need to ban all assault weapons, naturally coupled with a compensation program to reimburse the owners of the same for the value of the same. Reverse all open carry laws. We are not the Wild West. We must change the culture of violence that has been endorsed, and we must move to provide comprehensive public mental health support for all school systems. If something more was in place in Uvalde, that poor, sick, crazed young boy would not have been able to buy the weapons he did. So I close my eyes and dream, and then I go to phase 2. We got to love one another. We got to carry one another. If that's not our mission in life, I don't know what is. I'm done. I'm worn out by this issue. I just want to throw out a recommendation, if you don't mind. I have a cousin-in-law, someone I consider a good friend, who, ever since COVID began doing this morning broadcast. He's unlike me. He doesn't go long. He's just a couple of minutes, maybe on to 3 minutes on occasion. But he's short, he's thoughtful, he's brilliant, he's powerful. And he's one of the most compelling voices I've heard on this issue since Uvalde. Check him out on Facebook. You'll find him. His name is Chuck Stead. Just go to Facebook, look up Chuck Stead, and you'll find his daily recordings. You take care, smile on your brothers and sisters out there, keep us moving forward, and I'll be back with you soon. Bye now.